Dr. Stone Season 2 begins with Senku and his friends succeeding in creating a cell phone after going through a long and tiring process. This cell phone will be the key in the war against the Tsukasa Empire. Later that night, Gen met Senku to discuss the devious plan he had in mind. He suggested that they instigate Tsukasa's men to divide them. To do that, they must first give the phone to Taiju and Yuzuriha, who are currently spies on Tsukasa's side. Then, over the phone, they would talk to Tsukasa's henchmen and try to invite them to defect to the Science Kingdom. Gen knew they couldn't simply persuade people on the enemy side to betray Tsukasa, so he decided to pretend to be Lillian Weinberg, who used to be a very famous singer. Everyone would know who she was, and it would be easier for Gen to persuade the people of the Tsukasa Empire if he disguised himself as her. In addition, Senku has a phonograph record containing Lillian's songs, which are very beautiful and touching. They could use it to convince the people of the Tsukasa Empire. Incidentally, Gen could imitate female voices quite well, although his voice didn't resemble Lillian's, but he was sure people wouldn't notice over the phone. By pretending to be Lillian, Gen plans to spread a hoax among the people of the Tsukasa Empire. He would tell them that the United States had recovered from the petrification and soon would send aid to other countries, including Japan. If his deception plan goes as expected, Tsukasa's men will rebel against him. The people of the Tsukasa Empire themselves are united by Tsukasa's charisma. They all thought they would be safe as long as they were under his protection, the strongest human, and in turn, they were willing to follow him and obey his orders. But all that would change if they thought the US troops would come to Japan, because no matter how strong Tsukasa was, he would be powerless in the face of modern US weaponry. The next day, Senku and the others started executing their plan. First, they must send a cell phone to Taiju, who entrusts 3 people for that mission. They were Chrome, who served as a technician, Magma, assigned to carry the bulky cell phone, and Gen, a guide. But their journey will not be easy since Tsukasa has placed the reconnaissance soldier, Homura, on the path they will use. It would be very dangerous if she discovered that the Science Kingdom had a telephone. Therefore Senku, Kohaku, Kinro, and Ginro would try to catch Homura before she realized what had happened. But for them to catch her easily, they need to distract her. To do so, Senku uses a sound bomb, which he makes by electrocuting water, causing it to evaporate into hydrogen and oxygen. Then, the gas from the mixture of the 2 compounds is put into balloons made of deer skin, and those balloons are his sound bombs. The bombs were weak but could make a loud banging sound, much like a tire popping. As soon as she heard the sounds of explosions, Homura rushed over to check the source of the sound, giving Chrome's party a chance to pass towards Tsukasa's place. But when Senku's group tried to capture her, they had a very hard time doing so. Turns out she is a former gymnast athlete. Her movements are very agile, fast, and flexible, allowing her to escape from the encirclement of Senku's group without any major difficulties. To make matters worse, she noticed 3 people moving towards Tsukasa's place. So, ignoring the people who were about to catch her, she immediately rushed after Chrome's group. Senku certainly can't let Homura move as she pleases, and so, he used his phone and called Chrome's group, telling them to turn around immediately. That way, their groups will surround her from both directions, closing the chance for her to escape. Ultimately, they captured Homura, proving that Senku's theory was correct. Communication in war is very important. With the successful capture of Homura, Chrome, Gen, and Magma resumed their journey until they finally stopped at a graveyard near Tsukasa's headquarters. It was none other than Senku's grave. Tsukasa believes that Senku is dead, and therefore, in his honor, he builds him a grave not far from his base. As far as Gen knows, Tsukasa allows Taiju and Yuzuriha to visit Senku's grave daily. For that reason, Gen chose that place to install the phone. And so, Chrome rushed to install the tools needed for the phone to work. Then, after everything was ready, the phone was buried in Senku's grave. But then, a problem occurred. One of Tsukasa's elite soldiers, Ukyo, hears the noises made by Gen and his friends during the telephone installation. Ukyo is a man with sharp hearing. In his previous life, he even worked as a sonar operator on a submarine, so it is unsurprising that he can hear voices from quite a distance. Feeling suspicious, Ukyo then checked Senku's grave and found the 3 intruders. Luckily, they had finished installing the telephone set and buried the phone before his arrival. Now they just have to think of a way to escape from his pursuit. To that end, Chrome explodes the battery, filling the area around them with smoke. After that, he ran to distract Ukyo while shouting as loud as he could. Magma understood Chrome's plan, so he ran and shouted with him, leaving Gen alone where they had been hiding before. And Gen knew what he had to do. While Chrome and Magma were busy screaming, he rushed off, heading back to the village. However, he cannot be caught by the enemy. He is the key for them to divide the people of the Tsukasa Empire. Meanwhile, Taiju and Yuzuriha notice the buried phone at the graveyard and dig it out. Even so, they had to be careful when talking to Senku, as one of Tsukasa's subordinates, Miki, was watching them closely. But instead, Senku thinks this is a golden opportunity for them to persuade Miki to defect to them. And so, he asked Taiju to hand over the phone to her. At the same time, Gen arrived at the village and immediately took over the phone from Senku. By pretending to be Lillian, he starts talking to Nikki, telling her about the hoax about the United States. But to his surprise, Nikki turns out to be a huge fan of Lillian. In her previous life, she often watched Lillian's live concerts, collected her albums, and memorized the lyrics of her songs. And being a huge fan, she could immediately detect that the person talking to her was fake. Now that Gen's disguise has been exposed, Senku has no choice but to play Lillian's song, hoping it will convince Nikki that she is talking to her idol. And fortunately, his wish came true. She immediately burst into tears when she heard Lillian's singing voice. How could she not? She had never expected to hear Lillian's song in this stone age. So, with tears still in her eyes, she decided to join the Science Kingdom. Elsewhere, Chrome and Magma were still trying to escape from Ukyo. But it's not easy to do because Ukyo is very good at archery apart from having a sharp hearing. Strangely though, none of those shots hit Chrome or Magma. It made Chrome think, trying to understand what on earth Ukyo was thinking. He would have done it long ago if he wanted to kill them. After thinking for a while, he finally concluded that Ukyo didn't want to kill them. Therefore, he decided to surrender and let Ukyo catch him. As for Magma, Chrome told him to return to the village. Ukyo then takes Chrome to headquarters, where he is interrogated by Tsukasa himself. But he remains silent, saying absolutely nothing about the phone, even when he was threatened with death. In the end, Tsukasa decided to keep his stubborn captive in prison. Even so, Tsukasa was still curious about the purpose of Chrome coming near his base. So, he asked Ukyo where he found Chrome and if he was with anyone else. But unexpectedly, Ukyo chose to lie. He says that Chrome came alone and was in the nitric acid cave when he found him. Chrome's partner, Magma, had arrived at the village, where he was telling everyone about Chrome's capture. Hearing his story, Senku immediately thought of saving Chrome. Not only that, but he also wanted to attack the Tsukasa Empire with full force. But the physical strength of the villagers was still far behind those of the Tsukasa Empire. That was for sure. Therefore, Senku must find a way so they can defeat their enemy. And he finally found the answer in the form of an upgradable car, made of wood and powered by a steam engine. After the car was finished, they still had to test it. It turned out that the car could run as expected, apart from one problem that still plagued it. The problem is the car's wheels are made of wood, which, if used to drive on non-asphalt roads, will slow down the car's speed. So, to solve this problem, Senku designed alternative wheels made of woven bamboo. His decision paid off. Finally, they managed to make a car that works perfectly. Taking the car, which was used to carry science equipment, they set off for the Tsukasa Empire. There were no major problems during the trip, and without notice, they arrived near Tsukasa's headquarters, where they set up camp and made plans for their next move. And at this moment, Senku suddenly got a crazy idea. He wanted to strengthen their car and modify it into a tank. If they had such a powerful weapon, they could use it to break through the enemy base straight away. So, with that, they started gathering materials to build tanks. First, they collected a large amount of grass, then boiled it with sodium hydroxide. After that, the grass is pounded and dried until it becomes paper. But the process is not finished yet. Next, Senku made a kind of foundation out of wood, which was then covered with paper. Using the melted plastic as the adhesive, the papers continued to be piled on each other until they felt thick and strong. It had to be thick and strong because he wanted to make a carbon fiber shield. But one was not enough. They needed as many shields as possible. It was only after the number of shields was deemed sufficient that Senku put them on the car. He installed them so that he could turn the car into a tank, or rather, a carbon car. While Senku and the others were experimenting, Chrome was trying to escape from prison. But sadly, no matter what he did, he couldn't get out of that place. But when night fell, while he was about to sleep, a mysterious person approached the bamboo bars and threw a battery at him. As soon as he saw it, Chrome knew it was the key to his escape. And so, like a madman, he began to move in the prison for a whole day to collect sweat. Then, after he had accumulated enough, he electrocuted the sweat water with the battery before splashing it on the ropes that bound the bamboo bars. As a result, the ropes peel off, and the bamboo bars can be torn down easily. But his escape attempt is still not over. Tsukasa's elite warrior, Youe, saw him run away and immediately chased after him. And the worst part is, Chrome reached the edge of the cliff, forcing him to face his pursuer even though he knew he wouldn't be able to beat Youe in a fair fight. And so, he chose to use a strategy, pretending to be sick. To look more convincing, Chrome ate a plant that produced a red liquid, making it look like he had just vomited blood. Then he sprayed it at Youe, right in the face, causing him to panic for fear of catching the disease. And this is the opportunity he has been waiting for. Using a bamboo stick, he hit Youe's groin area as hard as possible, instantly knocking him out. Right now, Chrome didn't know that Senku and the others were camping not far from him. But luckily, Kohaku spotted him while she was monitoring the surroundings with a telescope. Finally, after being imprisoned and having to feign illness, he is reunited with his beloved friends. With everyone gathered, Senku and Gen continued their plan to attract the people of the Tsukasa Empire to their side. Their plan went well. They managed to trick some of Tsukasa's men into believing the US troops were coming soon. But not long after, Ukyo found them. He even saw how they used the phone to turn the people of the Tsukasa Empire into treason. At this moment, Gen tries to trick him by pretending to be Lillian, but his attempts fail miserably. Ukyo instantly recognized his fake voice. But to their surprise, Ukyo had no intention of reporting this betrayal to Tsukasa. He was fed up with Tsukasa, who arbitrarily destroyed petrified people. So instead of reporting to Tsukasa, he decided to join the Science Kingdom. Moreover, he has the same vision as Senku. He also wants to save all humans, without exception. Senku accepted Ukyo into the Kingdom of Science without having to think twice. There's no reason to refuse him, especially after knowing Ukyo was the one who saved Chrome while he was in prison. With this, the Kingdom of Science now has a lot of personnel, enough to attack the Tsukasa Empire. They just need to refine their weapons before moving on to attack. And so, they added some modifications to the carbon car and attached a cannon to it, making it look more like a real tank. But still, they wouldn't kill anyone from the enemy's side. They will only use the tank to lower the enemy's morale. A few days later, Tsukasa and Hilwa visit Senku's grave, where Tsukasa notices a dig. Finally, he found out that there was a phone hidden in that place all this time. What's more, the phone had Senku's name on it. At that moment, Tsukasa rushed toward the nitric acid cave. He could already predict that Senku and the people in his kingdom would target that place. While he was moving towards the cave, Senku's group had already arrived in front of the cave. And as they thought, their tank was able to intimidate Tsukasa's men guarding the cave. As a result, Kohaku, Kinro, Ginro, Magma, and others could easily subdue them. However, just as they thought they had managed to take control of the cave, Tsukasa and Hilwa arrived at the scene, causing the clashes to continue. But while the fighters from the Kingdom of Science are trying to confront Tsukasa and Hilwa, Senku and Chrome enter the cave to make explosives with nitric acid there because only with explosives can they defeat Tsukasa. Senku mixes nitric acid with sulfuric acid to make it before he adds glycerin obtained from soap to it to produce nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin is a liquid that explodes on impact. He then drips the liquid onto the end of the paper airplane, making it a paper airplane bomb that explodes as it hits a tree. Seeing that incredible explosion, Tsukasa and Hilwa realized they had lost. They surrendered to the Kingdom of Science. But what Senku said next came as a complete shock to Tsukasa. He offers a truce with the Tsukasa Empire, arguing that he knows the reason behind Tsukasa's actions, namely his sister. Indeed, Tsukasa has a sister named Mirai, but in her previous life, she was seriously ill and was even in a coma. The doctors had given up, saying that her life would not be long. But, just like everyone else, she was petrified when that mysterious green light appeared, and she is still petrified to this day. But Senku sees it as an opportunity for him to make a truce with Tsukasa. He planned to revive Mirai with revival fluid. And not only that, her disease can most likely be cured if she revives from it. The principle is the same as when Senku first rose from the dead after Tsukasa broke his neck. So, this is something that Senku offers to make peace with Tsukasa. It was up to Tsukasa whether he would accept his offer or not. But of course, Tsukasa accepts it. He couldn't possibly miss the chance to see Mirai recover from her illness. And so, they all rushed to the location where Mirai was. It turns out that she is buried under a cliff, but that doesn't really matter to Senku. He had modified nitroglycerin into dynamite, with which he could dig into the soil where Mirai was buried. After Mirai was found, Senku quickly poured revival fluid on her. Luckily, his prediction ended up right. The stones around her body were eroded away as her disease disappeared. She could open her eyes and stood up, causing Tsukasa to shed tears of joy as he hugged her tightly. Senku and the others were preparing to return to Ishigami village the next day. But oddly enough, when Chrome checked the dynamite box, he found less dynamite than it should have been. A moment later, an explosion was seen from the direction of the nitric acid cave. It turned out that Homura was the one who stole the dynamite to blow up the cave. But she doesn't work alone. It was Hyoga who told her to do that. Meanwhile, Hyuga himself is now with Tsukasa and Mirai near a waterfall, waiting for the moment when Mirai is off guard. And when that moment came, he immediately attacked her, knowing full well that if he did that, Tsukasa would protect her. Sure enough, as soon as he saw Hyuga pointing his spear at Mirai, he immediately jumped up to shield her from the spear. As a result, he was the one who ended up getting hit by Hyuga's spear. It turns out that the real antagonist is not Tsukasa but Hyuga. He had wanted to kill Tsukasa for a long time, but he knew his strength was not enough. But then, Senku revived Mirai, and at that moment, Hyuga finally found an opportunity to kill Tsukasa. He knew Tsukasa would protect Mirai if he attacked her, and his guess was absolutely correct. The attack completely weakened Tsukasa. He couldn't do anything while Hyuga knocked him off the cliff. Senku, who saw all that happened, tried to save Tsukasa by grabbing his hand, but Hyuga hit him from behind, causing him and Tsukasa to fall into the river and be swept away by the current. Unexpectedly, Hyuga jumped to follow them. When they made it to the bank of the river, Hyuga told Senku that he had the same ideals as Tsukasa before he changed. For him, petrification is a natural selection to reduce the human population. But after all, Hyuga couldn't possibly build his empire alone. He needs Senku's help, so he wants to invite Senku to join him in creating his utopia. The answer was obvious. Senku didn't want to accept his invitation. He'd rather run away than have to stay longer with that lunatic. But just as he was about to leave, Tsukasa signaled that he still had the energy to fight Hyuga. Feeling that they still have hope, Senku then tries to distract Hyuga by throwing stones at him. When Hyuga was distracted, Tsukasa got up and beat him. But still, right now, he was seriously injured, making it difficult for him to fight against Hyuga. After a long fight, Hyuga managed to corner Tsukasa. But while he was completely focused on Tsukasa, Senku took advantage of the situation to sneakily crawl over to him and then electrocuted him with electricity from the battery installed in Senku's body. The electric voltage is quite large, equivalent to that produced by a stun gun. But thanks to that, Hyuga was finally defeated. Due to his serious injury, Tsukasa was immediately treated. However, his chances of surviving were very slim since his internal organs had been destroyed. Of course, Senku realized this, but he didn't give up. He thought of an idea to petrify Tsukasa. So, if he was petrified and Senku revived him with revival fluid, Tsukasa's wounds would heal. The only problem is that Senku still doesn't know how to petrify living things. The green light that once petrified all humans was still a mystery to him. He couldn't create that light no matter how hard he thought. So, after some thought, Senku realized he had no other choice. He must accept Tsukasa's death. Therefore, he makes a refrigerator, or freezer, to freeze Tsukasa's corpse so it doesn't rot. He will remain in that freezer while Senku tries to find a way to petrify living things. Senku must find out the secret of the green light, where it comes from, and who created it. And he couldn't possibly get any information if he just stayed where he was. That's why he and the people of the Science Kingdom decided that they would explore the world. They would build ships to sail and search for information about the light, no matter if it would be a long time before they succeeded. With this, Dr. Stone's Season 2 ended.